At 9 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mochler.
Here.
Graylow.
Here.
Brady.
Here.
Peasy.
Here.
Gilbert.
Here. Approve agenda, and we can remove, under regular business, A1.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Any conflict of interest declarations? Hearing none, approve minutes from the February 17th meeting. So moved. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Are there any visitors to be heard that aren't on the agenda? Greg?
Morning, I'm not here to complain about my property taxes. I'm Greg Merrigan. I am a member of the Feeding Vermillion Board of Directors. And I am here to thank you for your continued support over the years and to leave you with a copy of our annual report. Our very first annual report. We're pretty proud of it. Just like to point out a couple things. Feeding Vermillion was a result of a merger a few years ago from the Vermillion Food Pantry and the Welcome Table. Those two organizations merged. And if you open up the inside front cover to that About Us tab on the right side, those are the 7 programs that are kind of under the Feeding Vermillion umbrella. The Welcome Table is a free community meal that's served every Monday night. All our programs are located at the Community Connection Center downtown. Across the post office, that building's owned by United Way. The Welcome Table is a free community meal that's held every Monday night. The Community Food Pantry is a food pantry that's open 5 days a week. The only qualification to come and shop there is that you are a resident of Clay County. That's it. Tanager shopping are special hours that we offer for kids of the Vermillion School District and their parents. They can come in on Wednesdays for a couple hours. Tanager delivery, every Friday, we have a group that takes backpacks to all the schools and supplies weekend food for kids that have signed up. Golden Share, we have a number of people in the community that can't come down and shop, they're homebound. So we deliver meals, boxes of food to them once a month. School supplies, every year we do about 300 school supplies for kids that have signed up down at the Center for Free School Supplies. And our newest program we're pretty proud of is Brain Boost. We kind of found out about a year ago that elementary school kids are asked to bring a snack to school. And we found out there was quite a number that parents couldn't afford to do it every day and teachers were buying snacks. So we did a little trial program. And last fall, we are supplying snacks to all the elementary school kids, 600 kids every day. And it's worked out really well. Take the pressure off the kids, take the pressure off the parents. So it's been very successful. That's our newest program. So that's all I've got. Thank you again for your support. And any questions, be glad to answer.
Thank you.
I got one quick question. I'm just noticing, so you've got some graphs in here that show sort of, the trends through the year. So year to year,
Yes.
how do they compare to what we're looking at here?
If you page into the Hunger in Our Community tab,
Okay,
it's like the second or third one in. That has some statistics about food insecurity in Clay County. There's a graph on the bottom.
okay, you've got a few years trends there. Yep.
And it's pretty interesting to look at the number of people that come to the food pantry. Now, that might be one person coming 12 times in a year. But in 2021, we had 8,618, and it's pretty much gone up by 1,000 every year. This past year, 12,108 visits. So the need in the community is not flat off or slowing down. It's increasing every year, the number of people that come down to get food. So
Thank you.
thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Greg.
Any other visitors?
I have a question, I guess. This might be an agenda item. I was just gonna ask if you believe it is, but sometime back I signed a contract with Reliance Telephone. We did it in a meeting. The FCC changed the rates effective April. And so they sent me a new contract. I just don't know if that's something that you want the commission to review, or if I should just go ahead and sign it. These contracts don't have a place for the commission. It's just for me. So historically, I've always signed these myself.
I don't have a problem with that.
The rates are lower, so. They
Sad
just-
we don't have a phone, right?
What's that?
If we don't sign it, we don't get phone service,
The
right?
inmates don't have phones, so this is inmate calling, and so it's the FCC set a lower rate for inmates, and so our current contract has a higher rate, so we're gonna lower that. The current contract expires December of this year, and so they want to sunset that in April and go up to lower one.
So we like lower rates. Yeah.
It doesn't change anything for us, it's the cost of the inmates. It's changing. So if there's no objection, I'll go ahead and just proceed with that, but if you want, I just want to know if you want to put it on the agenda for next.
It raises no concerns for me. I think it's obviously within the budget.
It doesn't do anything with our budget.
Right, within the sheriff's department's
Yeah.
budget, you know, what you're expecting to spend is gonna be less than that, so.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's an issue.
Yeah, and in fact, I believe it's supposed to increase revenue to us too. Process.
So sorry. No, I was just gonna say, you know, I know that we can't decide to assign that responsibility to you, but. To express any concern.
Any other visitors? Hearing none. Noah, business office hours.
Yeah, so with the construction going on next door, I was just saying of the days that they're gonna be drilling. You know, with the concrete saw and all that fun stuff, if I could just skedoodle, bring my laptop home with me and work from home, have my bondage set up. You know, when they were doing the construction downstairs, I had 2 layers of concrete between me and the construction, and there were some days I couldn't hear the phone. So I have a wood door now blocking it. So this is more or less a permission just on those, like, obviously if they're just painting or whatnot, you know, I'm gonna be in the office, but the days they're using the rock saw and stuff.
Do you have any idea how many days that would be?
I know that they're supposed to start setting up temporary walls upstairs on Wednesday or Thursday and begin construction. They're gonna be demoing a couple of walls, but I think those are mostly drywall. Maybe one isn't, and then they're gonna be doing all that plumbing remodel. We're taking the plumbing out of the 3rd floor bathrooms and putting it down into my old office space. So I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of drilling there. I don't know the time. I know that the project is gonna begin later this week. I just don't know how long it's gonna take.
Yeah, so like I said, it's not every day, it's just
As needed.
as needed situation. And like I said, I can bring my laptop home with me. I have that one for my office now, and then I also have my bondage. So people can still call the office.
Would you be comfortable meeting somebody offsite if they really wanted to meet you in person?
Oh, yeah, no, and you know, I already do home visits for vets, so doing that kind of thing is not a unusual thing for me, so.
You can post some information about that if you're gonna be out of the office and.
Yep, and then, you know, I'll make a little sign, I'll hang it on the door saying out for construction, if you need anything, give me a call, stuff like that. So it's more or less asking for permission before doing it.
I think it seems appropriate and like you're more likely to efficiently do your work. So I move to authorize, do we need a motion?
Yeah, we better.
I move to authorize Noah to work out of office during construction as he sees fit. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion passes. Brent, can you hear us? Or did you have anything else?
No, that was it,
Okay.
yes.
Brent, are you on?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
And then, so we're gonna start with the discussion of the agribusiness grant agreement. And did you get that, Carrie?
I passed it on to you guys this morning.
Okay.
Okay.
So I talked to Paul last week and Paul is on. Paul added 456 to the agreement, the road that was missing. I talked to her about if it ever just got left gravel, if we still qualified for the grant, and we do. You know, if we just build the road as a gravel road. And then we could come back and asphalt it or concrete it later, whatever we decided to do, if we wanted to.
All right, so we added 456 language.
Yes.
And then the full 600,000 is available regardless of what our decisions are about how we construct the road.
Yes.
Okay, and the full 600,000 is only to be applied to the 313th and 456 portion. That's not a cap that includes the turning lanes, right? The turning lane funding is addition to that?
They'll pay their third.
Yeah, that was my concern. Yep. So there's a little ambiguity in the language about that. I think that is. So,
That's C2, state 130. 2/3.
I apologize, I didn't see this coming.
Yeah, I didn't
just
either.
gonna open it real quick here.
I just saw it in my email when I got here this morning, so I think it came in between. when I left the courthouse.
Carrie, the only change on that one that in the email that you just got is there's a date missing in there. And that one has the updated date in it.
Okay.
And then. I might be wrong, Brent, so is 456 also to be included in A3? So I see it's been added to A2. So the language is road associated with new agribusiness, referring to this project as this agreement as the project located on 313th Street and 456 Avenue in Methley, South Dakota. So that's A2, and then A3 is the work will involve reconstruction of 313th Street, including excavation, grading base course and surfacing and adding concrete turn lanes, South Dakota Highway 50. Should that also include 456 in that line?
I would assume so, yeah.
The reconstruction of 313th Street and 456th Street.
So
Right.
Paula, do we need to add that to A3, you said?
Yeah.
To A3?
I was just looking at that. I have it pulled up as well. Yeah, we'll need to change that up a little bit. That's not our standard template, and I missed that. What I will do, I might just refer, the county will submit all testing results to the state upon completion of the work. Because 313th is actually yours. We really care more about South Dakota 5th, to be honest.
456 is ours also.
Yep.
Yeah. So to me, I think that really should say the county will submit all testing results to the state upon the completion of South Dakota 50, the work on there.
So you're talking about in 3J?
Yeah.
So instead of where it says right now, 313th, the county will submit all testing results to the state upon completion of the work along 313th Street. You're not seeking testing results on those. You only want the testing results for South Dakota 50.
Correct.
So that's to be changed. Okay.
Yep. And if you approve the agreement on that with that change, I will get our attorney to make that change and send you the agreement, and then you guys can sign it with that change.
I believe I had a question with the previous agreement on the cost estimate. But I'm not necessarily seeing it in here now. Has that been simply removed? The cost estimate that was provided in the last agreement was just quite a bit higher than what we were expecting. Oh, it is still down here. So this.
Yeah, it's in there. Yeah, but don't get caught on that number. Last
Yeah.
meeting's proven to us that estimates can be way off.
That's absolutely right.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just wondering if that was what that was based upon.
And I'd have to go look. That could be the total project, including construction of the facility, because sometimes that's the number that gets put in there.
Okay.
And I agree that maybe that's confusing. We should just put the road costs in there. But that is, if the project came in half that you get the money based on It's 600,000 with a
Yeah.
match.
Yeah, and I think we don't have any concerns that we won't be meeting that. Yep, so. Thank you.
So yeah, so we can approve it with the changes that they're gonna make and. And I can sign it when we get
I
to.
I moved to approve the signing of the agribusiness grant with the changes discussed.
Second. Oh, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Hi,
Pose same sign, motion passes.
I just wanted to thank you, Paula, for visiting the meeting today and getting this tweaked for us. Appreciate it.
No problem. And if there's further questions, just let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bid award for asphalt surface treatment project.
Yep, the road guy came in the lowest.
So we've got a contract price of $989,950.
I move to approve the low bid by the road guys.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion passes. Got bid award for Frog Creek Road culvert project.
Yep, Louisa one, got the lowest bid of, 330,310.50.
Move to approve. Good. Liza.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion passes. Bid award for highway materials. Everybody get that email? We can award that all in one motion to just award to low bid.
Various low bids.
Yeah, well, let's name them.
I think you guys usually word it, that you accept the highway superintendent's recommendations.
There you go.
Just to make it easy.
Thank you.
I move to accept the highway superintendent's recommendations for highway materials bids.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Anything else, Brent?
No, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Have a good day.
You, Brent.
Bye.
Scott, we've got an elevator maintenance contract renewal
Yes,
from Schumacher Elevator.
yes. $193 something a month,
195
$195,
even. So
$2,340 a year, $1,000 cheaper than our old contractor. Because we haven't had a contract on it for years. It's a new elevator, it just came out of warranty, so Schumacher is the contractor that upgraded the elevator. I felt it made sense to stick with them since it's their components and everything.
To approve Schumacher elevator as contract.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Let's see. It says here billing frequency and advance payment discount. So quarterly, if we make a quarterly payment, there's no discount. If we make a semi-annual payment, there's 1%. If we make annual one-time payment, we got 3%.
Yeah. I guess we'll pay it annually.
That's what I was wondering. So can I get an amendment to that motion?
I move to amend the motion to take payment annually.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All same sign, motion passes.
Is that just the motion for the amendment?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
so now we've got a motion to Got a motion and a second to approve the contract. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Pose same sign, motion passes.
It's the Cadillac too. Guess it covers all the parts. Obviously, there's always parts they're not going to cover. Like existing stuff that was there that they didn't replace.
We want to do the math or something to figure it out, and there's a box there for electronic or check thing.
Okay,
So mark whichever one you want.
well, so let me check.
I think that's $70. He said all counts.
Do electronic, yes.
Anything else, Doug?
Safer that way.
A lot, but not for here. Pick up the whole meeting.
Okay, now we're down to discussion regarding additional employees in the state's attorney's office and director of equalization office. You want to come up one day?
Yeah.
All back and forth. Who wants, which one of you wants to start? Do you want me to start?
Doesn't matter.
Me. So this. Linnea. Been asking and needing another person, so after we got the final numbers. Our budget shook out after last year. I asked them to get us the numbers of what a new employee for each of their offices would cost us. Michael, Michael, I don't know. Yeah, I did not send that email to everybody.
We've got it here. It's actually in at least some of it's in the packet. So if you'll see on the packet, I think it's page 24. I had Carrie kind of run down 3 different titles of positions. I would ask you just to forget about the administrative assistant. That just really doesn't fit the mold of what I need. I'm looking at either a legal assistant with qualification, somebody who has a degree in paralegal studies, or a legal secretary, which would be somebody who can still do that same job, but doesn't come with the same credentials as far as education background. I had Carrie, run both the numbers at step 1 and step 2, just accounting for somebody who has some experience walking in. You know, by the time you walk through salary, retirement, health insurance, short-term disability, the cost of the county annually is going to be somewhere between starting off at $63,000 and $72,500, depending on what the credentials are of the individual that walks in. The big issue for me now moving into my new space is I don't have anybody filling that front space that has a window. We're gonna get a lot of business going in and past my office, heading on the way the treasurers are confused on where things are at. So I had my staff move away from that, my current staff not occupy that room simply because they're otherwise not gonna get anything done. I sent you guys this morning, with a list of just similar-ish sized county state's attorney offices and the number of attorneys and support staff that they have. If you recall, a year and a half ago or a year ago, right before Noah got here, I took over welfare director responsibilities as well. That's something by statute that my office becomes responsible for once we hit 15,000 people per the most recent census. So that was going to occur in 2030. I just took it on 5 or 6 years early. If you look through this number, we are understaffed. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Is we have 15,000 or 16,000 people. We have adequate staffing for attorneys. I certainly wouldn't argue that. But what we're lacking on is support staff. Hughes County, which is a little larger than us, they actually have 3 attorneys now. That I only put 2. They've got 5 support staff members. Some of them do diversion, some of them do witness specialty type stuff. Some of them do administrative assistant duties. Yankton is also at 5. You even see counties like Butte County that's up through 11,000 people. Compared to our 15 or 15.5, they have more staff in their office than my office does. So beyond just the logistics of kind of what the office looks like now, as far as having that front office, just there's a need for it. In fact, we've been kind of drowning. I've had my staff no longer scanning documents and putting them into our electronic system, our old documents. I've got 6 bankers boxes full of files now that are sitting there needing to be scanned just because we don't have the time to get it done with the staff that we have and the workload that we have. Welfare directors takes up probably 10 hours a month or more of, staff that we didn't have before that now just has to pick up that work. So those are kind of the numbers and those are kind of the rationale and reason for the request. I'd be happy to, of course, take any questions.
So I wonder a little bit about the distinction between, so not having legal background.
Yeah.
So thinking about, what additional responsibilities can a legal assistant do versus a legal secretary? Or when you're considering this, would you be interested? Also, you probably have a bigger pool to hire from if you're hiring a legal secretary than a legal assistant. So would you consider putting out a call for either a legal assistant or legal secretary, depending on qualifications? Or
So-
how do you envision?
So a legal secretary and a legal assistant with qualifications really will do the same job. It's just gonna be the education background that they come from, as well as, really probably what they're capable of probably doing on day one. But ultimately, the aim will be that regardless of what they come in with qualifications, they're capable, with or without the qualifications, they're capable of doing the same job. The county has always given distinction to individuals with qualifications, really meaning the education component. So rewarding that. Both of my current legal assistants have paralegal degrees. So they're both being paid at that with qualification standard, but somebody that has, either their first job as a legal secretary or who has experience in the field but doesn't have the education background would walk in as a legal secretary, but realistically, they're going to be asked to do the same job.
Another question for me. So when I think about investing in your office, one of the ways that I hope things can work out is that when you have more capacity, you can do more diversion programs and things that save us money.
Yeah.
Do you see any paths that having this additional staff could potentially allow us to expand the services in a way that in the long term save the county some resources?
Yes, we're already running a pretty robust diversion program, certainly for juveniles. That's through the Boys and Girls Club right now primarily.
But expanding into that early 20s.
Even, and that's something that would require probably honestly additional staff to do a whole lot. But we are doing diversion programming right now for young adults, specifically with marijuana, alcohol, and traffic infractions. And that's increased, and we've picked that up since I've gotten here. That's additional diversion opportunities that really the attorneys are tasked right now with putting on their plates. And with having additional support staff, we're going to be able to allow the attorneys to either have more time to focus on that or to even push this towards a support staff member and give the attorney more time to do additional work. So, we just are in the process of implementing a marijuana diversion program. It's about a month old now, so we haven't really taken root, but we're doing additional diversion opportunities intentionally in my office, understanding that it works. And the science behind it's there, especially for young adults. And so we're already trying to implement those, but with more staff, it'll allow us certainly the opportunity to expand that and work that more efficiently.
Yeah.
My turn. I might
Unless
not be as
anybody,
prepared.
one second, unless anybody has anything else for Mike. Okay.
All right, I might not be as prepared as Mike, but we'll try. So after running the numbers, I would be starting them as an assessor clerk. That's the thing that I have on the pay position schedule right now. Your wages, insurance would be 59,000 and odd change. So looking at around a $60,000 overall increase. The only ongoing expense that I could see is the additional phone line. If I get a clerk, they don't have the same certification requirements as our assessor appraisers do. They don't have to attend conference, they don't have to attend school. Most don't anyway. The only sort of ongoing education that would be required is sales ratio training that happens maybe once every 3 years. It's a one-day thing, so you just cover meals and we have a county car. So the ongoing expense as far as training doesn't really change. Their memberships, that kind of thing doesn't change.
But they could go to training, right? You could
They
see-
can. It's not usually geared for that clerk thing. I think the biggest thing that it does for our office is it allows those of us that are certified to all attend training at the same time. Most of you know right now, whenever we have training, conference, required schooling, I call Ina. And so Ina's been coming in graciously covering a lot of hours in our office that she's retired. She earned that retirement. She's a huge help for our office, but also I can't count on Ina. ever. Even though I can count on her for now. So that's the biggest thing a clerk would free up is our ability to go out. For example, right now, there's a class in June that would be really great for me as a director to go to, maybe not my new assessor appraisers. If I go to that class and I have 2 appraisers that need to be in the field, they're going out one-on-one instead of in pairs. And then our office would be closed, or I have to call someone to come watch the office. So that clerk just frees up our ability to go to training. This year, our schooling that's required, all the way through basics in September, all 3 of us would be going at the same time and we'd have no one in the office if Ina's not free. And I'm like, I really feel like Ina's deserved her chance to say, or her ability to tell us, nah, I don't want to, you know? So it's just freeing up our office to get the training. The other thing is right now, as of assessment notices that we are like 3 parcels away from 9,300 parcels here in Clay County. That's the parcel load that we're managing. The state recommends that for each assessor appraiser is overseeing, they capped it at 3,500. So that would indicate that we need 3 assessor appraisers. But that doesn't account for the fact that I'm also trying to manage and supervise the office. That doesn't account for me needing to work on budget, to talk to you guys, to supervise what's going on, to address taxpayer concerns, to prepare for appeals, to prepare for reappraisal projects. This last year with new staff again, it felt like I was doing all summer and not managing. And so that just left me in a pinch coming up to assessment notices because I didn't have the time in the office to study the data that my 2 staff were bringing back to me. And it feels like we're treading water. We're drowning sometimes, but right now we're still treading water and it's not gonna be that way for long. I look at some of the surrounding counties that have similar staffing levels of 3 certified and a clerk. Thinking particularly Union County, which has closer to 15,000 parcels, but then the population, what are their city sizes? We have the 12th largest city in the state. And so you look at reappraisal cycle, they suggest 5 to 7 years. We're currently on year 8 and we haven't touched per million commercial. So we're definitely falling behind in our reappraisal. We're falling behind in filing. Filing's a huge thing. We have everything back to 24 hasn't been filed in our office. So plats, records, that kind of thing. Even looking at the fact we're implementing a new software. So data entry is going to start taking up a lot of time. If I had a clerk, they could focus on data entry because that's not the actual appraisal valuation process, right? That doesn't require them to be certified. They're saying, oh, this building is this big, this building is this big. And then my actual certified staff can go in and look at how that valuation works out. So I don't know if this is something that my office will need forever. I mean, we've had 4 in the office in the past, and that 4th person was part-time and moved to the treasurer's office back in, when did them move? Is that 2007 or 8?
Remember?
Yeah, but I mean, we had 4 in the past and decided that it was too much. Right now, I look at, again, going back to Union County, that was the thought I didn't finish, I apologize. You look at the years of experience in their office with 3 staff and a clerk, and they have over 30 years of experience in their office between, because the clerk and then their director and one of their appraisers have all been there for over 10 years. You look at my office, we're sitting at 7 years of experience. And then adding new people, that still doesn't go up. That's still going to stay at 7 or 8 years of experience. So right now, per international standards for assessing offices, if you have that much experience and looking at the rural urban divide, the more rural it is, the less parcels you should be handling. So by my calculations, we should only be handling about 1,700 parcels a person. And right now we're handling 31. So nearly double what we should be looking at for this. That's certified.
I think an additional advantage long-term is that somebody working in the clerk role, you might discover a really talented person that eventually, if somebody else leaves, you wanna move them over. spots. It's nice to have some space for that.
But you can train that clerk up in the meantime.
Oh,
correct?
absolutely. We can start them on the certification program at any point in time that we would want to. Really, the biggest thing they cannot do is they cannot set values. That's it. So they can't do ratio study, whatever, so. I mean, if we have someone out sick, they can go out in the field. If we wanted to move them up to field appraiser, that is, I believe, one grade higher is my uncertified as assessor one, I believe.
Yeah. There's not a huge difference in cost in the county between those two roles. So, yeah. Well, I believe you.
We need 140,000.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have a computer in here for that person either, though.
Oh, right, yeah, I would need to add a computer this year, but obviously I budgeted 60,000 for the whole year and we're already in March. So that's 3 months of wages that theoretically I'm asking for that I don't need this year. And I only buy one new computer a year anyway, so I could just add it to the rotation.
And I did ask Erickson's last week to give me numbers on mine, that it's like a little less than $2,000 is relatively what the cost was gonna be. I've already got furniture going into that space, so to add what I need, it's gonna be, I'm also gonna have to have an additional phone line. And then the computer cost, which will also just have to be replaced right now, we're seeing computers in my office lasting 3 years, maybe 4, so we're kind of getting to a point where I'm having to do 2 a year generally. They don't last longer than that.
So part of what motivated this was the annual port and surplus cash numbers coming out. And those looking stronger than we were expecting. I saw the bottom line, about 17% cash reserves at the end of the year versus, I can't remember what we were looking at, but I thought it was less than.
And it's really more like that 16% range. I mean, it's barely over 17. But I really credit all the department heads.
Yep.
Last year, everybody pinched pennies, really over the last several years, but last year pinched pennies. We didn't have the snow, so we didn't have the snow removal costs. You know, there were things that just, the way they played out, we didn't have to spend that money. And I was super impressed at the end of the year. Actually had a little moment of panic, like, what did I miss in the software conversion? You know, what got missed that's making this number look so good? And I went back over everything. I double checked it. Nothing got missed. We just had that good of a year. And that hasn't happened in, gosh, probably 10 years. It was pretty amazing, actually, so.
And then for audience that might be listening, basically that we approve our budget and departments have the money to work with, it's allocated in the budget, and then if they have not used all of those allocated funds at the end of the year, then that ends up being our cash reserves in addition to an amount that we choose to hold aside in case of emergency. So everybody, Sharon, everybody did a good job tightening their belts last year and managed to come out stronger than we thought.
Good. And neither one of these are new asks. I mean, both of you asked.
You've been prepping us.
And we had to say no.
This has been a need that's been coming for a while.
Glenn, how are we on the budget for the remodel? Are we good for the funds there, Carrie?
I would defer to her. We were over.
Yeah, we'll
Over
do
on
that.
that with that sprinkler, but so.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of bills come through yet. I think we just received our second big pay application from Lloyd, and Tiger's looking over that, so. Guess I haven't seen much come through yet, but
We're gonna have some small change orders.
Right.
For Michael, and then there was that other one from Erickson's.
Right.
So
And I'm sure as Rhonda gets into her space, I would imagine this next, later this week and next week, probably a lot like me, she'd start getting in there, you start, oh, this drops on the wrong side of the wall, we need to change that, or, oh, I didn't realize we need to add whatever here. So that's certainly, I'd imagine, likely to happen. We're probably gonna continue to see small change orders in the old public safety center, and obviously we don't know what they're gonna find on the 3rd floor of the courthouse still, because that demo goes live later this week.
So with you and Rhonda and that other thing, that might be 7,500. So not a huge number, but that could be a can of worms upstairs, right? So.
We're decided not to buy a $600,000 paver this year.
Well, that money is not reflected in the general.
Ah, that's all in the
Right.
highway department.
Yeah.
That's separate. So, I mean, that helps.
Yeah.
And that makes it better.
Particularly, I think with the, you know, some unknown road costs out there this year, that we're probably gonna have to take care of this year, thinking about the road project out by the elevator. That was one that's been looming as just a big question mark number for me, but I don't think that necessarily bears on this. I think you guys have been backing us for this for a while.
But as far as these two right now, are you okay with just say that 140 number?
Yeah, I think, you know, when you talk about road projects, they come out of the road and bridge fund, generally speaking. You know, we do contribute from county general over into that road and bridge fund every year, just something we budget for. But when I think in terms of the general fund, like I said, we ended the year really, really well. And hopefully, as we continue to have the growth in the county, things will start to look a little better. We're bringing some inmates into our jail now from other counties, so we're not only not spending to board them elsewhere, but we're also bringing in a little bit more. So it's helping, you know, really offset the extra jail staff. And so I think just overall, we're looking pretty good. That's probably the first time in, 10 years I've been able to say that.
Yes, you said that whole thing with a smile on your face.
And over the last several years, my office has turned in between 18 and 20,000 each year at the end of the year. Last year, I know I had to ask for a budget supplement, but just for your reference, we supplemented my office around $12,000. And the extra payment that I made to software was $27,000. So if that payment hadn't been made, I probably would have been turning in 15 instead of asking for 12. So I'm ahead of schedule on my payments for what I budgeted this year for Catalyst conversion. But I'll probably be using most of that on beeping version. We'll see.
I moved to authorize Linnea and Michael to fill these two positions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes.
Truly, thank you.
And thank you both for prepping us. You know, it's a lot easier when you guys have given us a long runway on this. And then thank you for the materials that you provided that help us understand exactly what the costs will be. Really makes it a lot easier to make things like that. So thank you guys for the support.
Will we have to supplement their budget sometime then?
At some point, yeah,
Okay.
we can handle that a little later.
And just for reference, I only have room for one more in my office right now. So even though I'm hiring for an appraiser and now you've approved hiring of a clerk, I will only be filling one of those until we move upstairs at that. And I've already told them, finish what you need to finish upstairs. I'm not in a hurry. We'll get up there in May, probably. So we still have another month or so of.
You might as well be looking for them both right now, though.
Yep,
I'm
yep,
gonna say
I'm gonna
it'll take it out.
open, I'm opening both of them for sure. But at this point, start date for
Yeah.
that, whichever one comes first. If I find a great appraiser first, I'll hire that. If I find a great clerk first, I'll hire that. And then that other position, start date will be once we're upstairs.
Graduating in May.
We'll make it work if you find the right people next week.
Okay,
Don't turn somebody away. That's the right person.
okay,
Because we don't have to, we'll figure something out.
sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Nothing is more precious than the right person.
Yes.
I gotta get through appeals first. I'm not even sure I can interview next week yet.
Change order from Erickson Solutions Group for IT in the courthouse annex.
I put this on there. I wasn't sure if that was something that fell under Glenn's ability to approve it or whether you wanted it on here. If you don't, well.
Oh, it's just,
I just-
okay. It's just a change order. Yeah. One can.
I assumed Austin told me he was gonna put it on that project.
And this is under that.
So
Right.
Yeah, I figured it was probably something that you could handle, but stuck it on the agenda anyway, just in case, and just so that it wouldn't hold anything up if, you know.
Yeah, I think Glenn.
Yeah.
Glenn's got the authority
I
on
know
that.
issue on that.
So moving on to discussion regarding fire ordinance, the red flag warning that we have. So Noah and Mike, whoever wants to.
Yeah, so. We got approached, about trying to update
No, this is the red flag warning.
the red flag.
Just the red flag warning.
Oh, just updating it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So maybe Mike needs to.
yeah, Mike probably.
Yeah.
need to-
I spoke with Andy a little bit too yesterday. I think he would probably be helpful. It's from a enforcement mechanism, certainly, and also just historically kind of the understanding of kind of how this has evolved over time. It's 22, it's our current ordinance is what, 2022-07. How I read the ordinance, and it's in the packet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, snake to it. I somehow closed it. Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, and I'll have to pull it back up, but what it says at the very bottom of that ordinance is essentially it says that the fine can be up to the maximum penalty for a class 2 misdemeanor, but it doesn't give a specific fine amount. It's like the second to last paragraph. How I interpret that is, and Andy and I spoke yesterday, his guys go out, recognize a violation of this ordinance. They're gonna have to do one of two things. One, prepare a report and send it to my office. And then my office staff takes a look at it, decides who essentially to summons to court. Or write a citation that would be a mandatory court appearance, which would be similar to, there are others that we do this with. And then the individual's gonna have to go to court. And then obviously we'll have to work within the elements and the confines of the current ordinance to determine whether or not we can prove a violation. The challenges that the sheriff's office has had is identifying who to cite. And that's gonna continue to be a challenge for my office as well, as to determine who to go after. But ultimately, the way that it's written now, they would go in front of the judge if they're cited or we summons them into court. And then we're gonna ask for a fine that can't exceed the maximum penalty of 30 days in jail and a $500 fine. We're not gonna ask for jail time, we're gonna ask for a fine. There are most class 2 misdemeanors, which is a similar, the same offense level here as this ordinance, have like a set fine amount, and there isn't a mandatory court appearance. Only class 2 misdemeanors that I'm aware of, off the top of my head, that there's a mandatory court appearance on: underage drinking, and failure to have insurance. Those are like the two big ones, unless there's been like a traffic accident where there might be other stuff involved. So this is a little rare. It's certainly an outlier. It's not the only like class 2 misdemeanor that we currently have where people are mandated to go to court rather than just pay a fine. But there's no mechanism there for them to just pay a fine short of going to court. They're gonna have to show up. My office is gonna have to make an offer to them essentially that says, pay a $150 fine or $250 fine, and then would agree to let you plead guilty, no jail time. Judge would have to accept that and have to plead guilty.
So when I was looking over this ordinance, this was just before I joined the commission, but in the next paragraph after that seemed to indicate that like all the cost, all the, fire department time, everything associated with an out of control fire, which I'm assuming is the only time that somebody would likely be. I mean, I guess if you had a real big fire and maybe it wasn't out of control yet, but it seems like primarily this is something where like something gets out of hand and then
This is,
you shouldn't have been burning or.
this is,
But that seemed like that could be way more than $500.
we're trying, well, there'll be associated costs from the fire department then, but.
So that what you're referencing, that statute 34-35-12 is that statute is all about civil liability, and it's in effect regardless of if we have this ordinance or not. Even without having this ordinance, that civil ordinance would be in effect where like the fire department could go after.
So the additional language here just says if you were in violation of this, then you definitely.
If you're, right,
are
essentially saying that,
responsible.
but you still have to meet that threshold under 34-35-12, and it stands separate from what this ordinance is. I think that maybe some of the issues with our current ordinance is just, as Andy and I spoke through it, is, it requires a lot of individuals of first, right, making the call in and then really sitting with the fire throughout the duration of the fire. Some of these fires last hours on end. And then, then all of a sudden they go home at dusk and at 3 a.m. the fire department gets a call because the fire's back live. And now it's like, do we have a violation of this ordinance? And then again, who do we cite? Do we cite the landowner, or is it in a trust name? who's responsible for the fire. I know those are some of the difficulties that the sheriff's office works through, and when they eventually work through those, you know, then it makes it to my office. Since I've been here, I'm aware of one case that's made it to my office that we're
It has nothing to do with it.
Oh, I thought this was saying that, okay,
That's the previous ordinance that this one replaced. This one, if you light a fire and don't tell us, you've committed a violation. Whether it gets out of control or not,
Right.
and whether there's a red
That
flag.
was the whole point of this ordinance to begin with, was we needed people to call in. Take for example, I don't know if it was last week or the week before. There was a fire close to me that the Centerville Fire Department got called out 3 times for the same fire. Because people driving by were calling it in.
Okay.
Because they saw a fire. Well, when you call in, they get your phone number, so, and a location. So if they do get that 911 call, they can at least call you back and be like, is this out of control?
Hmm.
And if you say, yeah, then they'll call the fire department.
okay.
It's saving that fire department running out on every time somebody cries wolf,
Okay.
because you didn't notify 911 or whoever that goes through that you're actually starting a fire. The out of control part's not.
I mean, just as personal, it gets to be this time of the year. There's times where Callahan, Matt and I will be out driving around checking to see what fires have been reported, what have not. Just because you'll see smoke everywhere from spring.
I burn a lot of trees from cleanup, and I ride along 19, I call it almost every weekend, I burn it.
Yep.
This isn't, we don't want the ordinance to be a gotcha type moment. We're not looking for criminals. We just want people to call in and let us know that, yeah, you are burning. So, because all of our fire departments are volunteer, so they're all leaving their job to run out to a fire that isn't out of control. But they have no idea when they get the 911 call. And everybody
Most
having.
recent one, when I think it did get out of control. And then the question was, who do we cite? The property owner who wasn't around, or the guy that's there who says, not my fault. Right, the other guy. So we sent it up to the state's attorney with both names for them to consider charging. So far, that decision has been made.
Yeah, it's like similar again. I kind of refer this back to like the no insurance violations. State law is very specific on who we can charge, and it makes it challenging for law enforcement. You can't cite somebody, you can't cite the driver of a vehicle who isn't the owner for not having insurance. You know, there's mechanisms that law enforcement has. They can tow the vehicle, and they can ask us to summons the owner of the vehicle into court for not having insurance. You know, there's some difficulties with similarly with this ordinance and how it's written, because it does kind of leave ambiguity on who is the responsible party. It's obviously easy when the landowner is the one that's there or supposed to be there, they live on the property, but suddenly when the land's in trust name and it's being rented to somebody, you know, who's responsible? Is it the trustee? Is it the renter? Is it the landlord? You know, and figuring out how to work through that certainly isn't easy on our end, but.
Well, so here,
Now.
for me, that's the simple one, because we could just say it's the landowner, right?
You can, but again, you go in trust land, who's the owner? I can't cite a trust.
Why not?
That's not, it's a fictitious individual. I can't cite a fictitious
But
individual.
there's an owner, there's somewhere there's an owner.
The owner could live in California.
Right.
Yes, but what I'm getting at is, if you were renting a farm or renting a house, and they all of a sudden got $150 fine and a summons to court, a quick phone call to that renter going, you're gonna take responsibility for this, or you won't be farming my ground next year. It's remedied pretty fast, because they can come in and say, it was me, right?
But not right, well, yes, right now though, they're gonna have to appear. So today, how this is written is it's a mandatory court appearance.
Right, but I mean, we need
Someone's
to,
gonna have to appear to take responsibility. That would be the challenge that we would have currently.
the way it's currently written.
Yeah, and
How do we
even-
write it so it's not.
Even if we change it, if they want to contest it, this question is still going to become who's legally responsible. If they want to contest essentially liability rather than the facts of the case.
But if that renter came in and said it was me,
Assuming they're willing to come in.
well, I mean, when you start talking, I don't get to rent my house next month, or I don't get to rent the land next year. They're gonna fess up pretty fast. When it's $150 fine.
Sure. Usually,
Well, I mean, it'll get remedied on outside of our hands then. That person won't be a problem next time.
But you're saying that the statute as written could be. Make it so it's not a mandatory court appearance.
well, how it's currently written, it is, because it, it just says that this is what the maximum is. So how that is always gonna be interpreted is that they're gonna have to go in front of the judge and the judge is gonna determine the fine. If there was essentially a schedule, like our speeding ordinance has a schedule, where if you're over a certain mile per hour, even with the county ordinance, it mimics state law. You're cited a certain dollar amount and then you don't have to appear. You can just pay it. It's called a power of attorney citation. Or you can either choose to go to court and contest it, or you can just pay the fine and not have to go to court. Those are,
Which would be the more ideal.
So we can write the statute as the deputy can go out and write him out. There's a $300 fine. Pay your
Yeah.
ticket.
you can do that. And that'd be the
Or
alternative.
if the circumstances are different, make it a mandatory court appearance.
Yes. You could do either one of those.
So in this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this ordinance is, say, I'll use me an example. I burn a lot of trees and stuff at my place. The ordinance is there for me to call it in, it's not just there for out of control fires.
Right.
I can have a completely controlled brush, pile of trees and be in violation because I didn't call it in.
Yeah, so long as it's as long as it's
That's what the ordinance is
It
for.
requires, the ordinance, as Andy stated, and I agree with him, is that
Yep.
it must be called in.
Yes.
Before you do any open burning, and the open burning must be directly supervised while actively burning.
Yep.
And if you haven't called in, or if you haven't sat with the fire throughout the duration of the burn,
Yep.
then you're in violation of this ordinance.
That's my understanding of it also. I just wanted to
You
make
need
sure.
Probably specify what that means too, because according to the ordinance, you can't go in the house while you got that.
No, I sit there with my skid loader and tend it, so.
The way I've always explained it to people when they call the fire station asking for clarification is that they have to call it in. It has to be attended to. If they change people at some point, I tell them they have to call back to dispatch, report who's then watching it and a phone number. Because if they decide to run to Sioux Falls, because somebody else is gonna watch it, well, we need to know who's on site watching that fire. Because he's not gonna be able to tell us whether it's in control or not if we get him out. And so people have been pretty receptive to it. I think our number of false responses have gone down after about a year or two of having this. So I mean, I think it was much needed based on our false responses that we were having throughout the county.
I agree with that. I think the only issue is just when it comes down to, okay, now rubber meets the road, and it's time to enforce it. That's where we have trouble.
Well, that's where you're at, right? Where
Right.
should it be a mandatory court appearance is kind of where you're going, correct?
Well, that and just also, my issue runs in the same issue that law enforcement does is who do we cite, who do we bring into court?
We talked a little bit ago and, Travis saying that thing works out. I don't think it will. Because if we cite an absent landowner, essentially we mail him a summons at his home in Iowa. And he just chooses not to come to court. And we're not gonna extradite that person back to South Dakota to attend court. And we can't turn around and say, well, all right, we're gonna arrest the other guy. First, we'd have to convict that person. And they would have, I think they would have a legitimate defense. But they weren't even in the state at the time this offense occurred. So I got a hunch we're gonna probably get an acquittal if they did show up in court. And they may not come and at that point, how are they gonna hold their tenant responsible?
Yeah.
And some people aren't necessarily interested in following the rules. They'll follow the rules that they have to, and those they can get away with, they will.
And I think to that too, is I think this is, while it's a good rule, I think it kind of runs counterintuitive to probably most people's ideas of what they're responsible for. I don't think most people believe they need to call in prior to lighting a fire when we're not in a red flag. I don't know what percentage of fires that you guys see that are started that aren't called in, that, you know, never get out of control, but I imagine.
In place. I run into less and less every year of who don't know the ordinance or don't know they're supposed to call in. And truthfully, I think a lot of it, you know, and we've used it more of education for that first time person, dispatchable tractor times, how many we've been, you know, we've never been out there for one that's not called in, you know, education on the ordinance, why I didn't know or whatnot. Most people, honestly, I haven't, other than like Andy, you know, the sheriff pointed out, you know, there's a few people out there that will just do it over and over and they don't really care. Most people, after one time of learning what the ordinance is, are pretty good about, you know, following through with it, so.
How many citations do we have a year on this?
Well, since I've been here, I've had one case brought to my office and it's currently under review. So just under 3 years, this has been in effect for about 4 years, and this might be the first and only one. And this one is here, landowner's not on site, it's the renter, person responsible, and when I think when they showed up, he says, no, this is the landowner's problem. So the decision was made just to send the case to my office for a review. We're currently reviewing it, trying to decide who we can cite. As Andy stated, and I agree with it as well, the situations where the landowner is the one doing the fire, those will be easy. You know, we know who to cite. The issues, you know, that's going to be, you know, half of these potential violations moving forward, hopefully will be fairly easy. It's going to be figuring out the legally responsible party on those where, you know, ownership of the land is unique, or, you know, families have a third share. You know, who do we cite when you've got, is it the person who calls in? Well, what if they didn't call in? You know, that's going to be what happens is, if it's the person that calls in and says, I'm doing fire, and then they don't follow the ordinance, that's the person we're probably going to cite, probably going to be able to find legally responsible. But if they don't call in and the ownership of the land is not, you know, a single individual, you know, suddenly we've.
Well, if they call in, they're not in violation of the ordinance, even if the fire gets out of control.
Unless they walk away from
Unless
it.
they left it unattended and then it got out of control, which honestly, we don't see a lot of that. Honestly, we don't see a lot of the person that's been out there 8, 9, 10 hours with it. Then they go in and, you know, they're gone 3, 4 hours and then it's out of control and nobody was attending to it. It's more of the ones that they just go out, they light it, they don't care, they're just gonna burn it, it's not gonna be that long. Somebody drives by because they're on the highway or whatever and they see it and they call it in and we respond out there and they're like, oh no, I was just burning my ditches off. Well, you didn't call it, you didn't call it in, you're in violation of the county ordinance. So I think those are, and understandably, then you're like, well, who do we cite at that point? Are we citing the person that did it or the person that owns it or
Gave authority.
to do it, you know?
And you, law enforcement may not ever be able to determine who lit the fire either. And you might get somebody that just refuses to give any information, which is their right. And if they do that, then it's like, okay, we've got 3 people around or nobody around. Who do we determine is liable for this fire? We can't solve all of those issues with this ordinance, and it's just how this game goes. It doesn't matter what the ordinance or statute is. We have these struggles from time to time. This isn't like this is unique. But it certainly gives me, as I work through, you know, we're trying to work through enforcing this ordinance now that's 4 years old, I think for probably the first time. And it's, you know, it has issues and it's probably always going to, just because of the nature of what this violation is.
Noah had a question,
Yeah,
maybe?
so in regards to the whole renters / landowner / trust, if you're to, you know, word it as the land manager, because if you're renting the land, you're managing the land. And if you're trying to burn off the ditches in that area, I mean, you're responsible during your rental agreement, correct?
You might be able to do that with an added definition of land manager, and maybe you could spell that out. I was curious about neighboring counties, and do we have examples of other model language that's working well in other places?
I did not look that up. This was all put into effect before I got here, so I'm not sure where because I know before we had the red flag. So I don't know where this language ever came from.
Is it CDOG or?
I couldn't even tell you where it came from.
It was all originated off of the red flag warning from years ago, when we did the original red flag. There was not anything in there about calling it in. So that's why this one got added. Was for the calling in. As far as the other counties, red flag warning, other counties have used ours.
Okay.
To base theirs on.
Okay.
Yeah, we did, you know, because we did
You're
this red
pioneers.
flag originally, so we didn't have to have a burn ban.
Right.
We'll make that ordinance to, okay, it's a burn ban, because it never failed. We put the burn ban on today and it was 3 inches tomorrow.
Yeah.
And everybody'd be wanting to burn and we're like, well, we can't take it off until the next meeting.
Yeah. So this just makes it automatic.
It makes it automatic year round and we don't have to worry about it.
Okay. Well, I think that it seems like there's a pretty, I mean, maybe setting the dollar amount is, might be something to discuss, but it seems like a pretty good mechanism for solving the part about the penalty, right? So adding in just that there is a stipulated penalty for a violation of this. And it is X $100 unless you want to contest it in court or something like that. Is that aspect of it? And then the second question, you assign responsibility to the right person seems a little bit more challenging. I kind of like Noah's idea of land manager, if there's workable definition that you could assign with that. I don't know.
You can't put land manager in there. That's not gonna work. Because there's technically land managers who just don't do the work. They're just the go-between between the renter and the owner.
They can be absent as well.
Yeah, you could have land management company.
Yeah,
What about leaseholder?
How does that work when it comes to ditches? Cause they don't own the ditches.
it's part of the farm though. But I have seen owners burn the ditches. And they're not farming the ground,
Well, yeah,
so I don't know.
cause,
Can't we just draft it towards the person that lit the fire?
yeah, that's the easiest thing, the responsible party. You know, cause I've burned the ditches across the road from me.
Right.
You know? And I've asked permission from the farmer.
And I actually like that standard. I mean, I'll show my hand here because I think anybody with a couple brain cells will figure it out. I mean, if law enforcement then can't figure out who lit the fire, we're not gonna be able to prove case, but you know. That's gonna be the downside of that definition, but it's probably the most straightforward.
In the fire.
And it's the person that is conducting the fire, not the person that owns the property or manages it or, you know, any of this.
Yeah.
And then we know, now they can come in and plead not guilty. Say, I was just doing what I was told, but that's fine.
Yeah.
We might get a conviction, we might not.
I like that as a starting point. The other thing that we're gonna just need, and I can draft some language that we're gonna have to incorporate into this to kind of make a change on this ordinance. But if we want to include like a fine schedule essentially, rather than a mandatory court appearance, which I would suggest, just because it's gonna simplify it. Most people probably won't contest it traditionally with fine schedules. Generally, people just pay them rather than contest them. And you know, this would alleviate some work for my office. Yeah, and it would also alleviate the landowner or the person who lit the fire's obligation to come into court. Just gives a mechanism that's probably a little easier.
So are you thinking, like, first offense, just a fine? Second offense, a fine but court appearance?
The problem with building it, and we talked about that as well, as the problem with doing first offense, second offense is just over what period of time. Like, I know Andy and I talked about Wakanda has that with their dog at large, but there's the ordinance in Wakanda silent on the period of time in which it's a first offense, second offense, now is it a first offense again? I think because it has been so infrequent, my recommendation would just be to set a fine amount, and if we have somebody who is continuously violating this, maybe we go back to the drawing board on that, but this hasn't been an issue. Not one that has reached my desk anyway, but for one time. So I would suggest just implementing a fine, and then even if there's a multiple offender, like speeding, if you get caught speeding twice in a week, you know, you're gonna get the same fine, it doesn't escalate. You know, and I think that it probably still solves most of our problems, and if that doesn't, then we go back to the drawing board.
So Matt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but talking to other fire chiefs, They say they need the sheriff to write the fine so you guys can collect. So you can bill that property owner or land or fire, whoever started the fire for,
Well, I believe state law allows us to bill on a fire, Michael, correct, though, what you were saying is that 34, 35, 12 or whatever it is.
Yeah, 34, 35, 12 reads that civil liability for a fire. A person who sets a fire as provided in 34, 35, 10 is liable for civil damages for all injuries and fire suppression and extinguishment costs caused by the fire.
So is that, so by the way, they have that rule, Michael, is that we have to bill them for that, or can that be put on as restitution on a court case? If say, for instance, somebody burns their burn pit and, they lighted it at 4 or 5 in the evening, it burns, they go in, they have dinner, they go to bed, the next thing we know, all Spirit Mountain burned. Well, that's a bad reference because that's state ground and that's different. But if somebody burns up 100 acres, is that's civilly, we have to send them a bill for that in hopes that we can collect it on our own.
I would say that that's separate. It's separate from restitution. That's a civil liability. So you would have to essentially create your own, bill them. And if they wanted to contest it, you'd have to have your own civil lawsuit, small claims or otherwise to collect.
Yeah, so we don't need a ticket issue to necessarily bill someone. I mean, we could bill someone for a burn pit that just gets out of control and they call it in, be like, well, you didn't control your fire, here's your bill of $1,000.
and which normally the fire departments don't in that case. It's the ones that gotta run out for that aren't.
Yeah.
It's the time ones that they really wanna bill for.
And those ones, I don't know if those would be covered under 12, right? Because that's not suppression.
Correct, there's no suppression, there's no suppression there, and that wouldn't even be under false reporting either, because that doesn't fall under that, so really there is nothing that the fire department itself could collect on for, a false response, on a fire.
Can we write that into this ordinance? Can we say as,
Courts won't order restitution unless you're a victim of the crime.
Right.
For example, the highway department will submit a bill now and then if somebody rolls their car and takes out a highway sign. We'll cite that person, maybe even for DWI, but the court will not order restitution for that highway sign. The highway department has to just send the bill because they're not a victim of that crime. The court will order restitution if you damage somebody's property intentionally, things like that. If we have kids that spray paint on a bridge, and they go in front of the judge and the judge will order restitution, but on a victimless offense, they will not order restitution. We see that on hit and runs.
Yeah.
Charge a person with hit and run and they hit somebody's car, but they gotta sue them to get damaged.
Yeah, the courts have found essentially causation is where that falls, is there has to be causation between a nexus between the charged offense and the restitution. There has to be a victim. So it's exactly why hit and run wouldn't constitute restitution, because hitting the car was not the crime. It was running away from the crime, from the crash scene itself. That's separate from restitution. You can sue them, but you can't collect in a criminal case on restitution. So it'd be the same issue, and I 100% agree.
Can we direct where the fine goes?
It's gonna go to the same, I think it's gonna go to every other county ordinance, and really the only other county ordinance that your office probably enforces is speeding, correct? It's gonna go into the same, it's gonna go there. That's where that goes. It's gonna go back into the, it's gonna be collected by the clerk of courts, and then it's gonna be distributed pursuant to, I think there's state law on it.
And $50 come back to the county.
Yeah, I think as far as I'm concerned, speaking for us, I think it's just a matter of, we have an ordinance, it's to get compliance, and if that doesn't happen, then they're fine. Whether we get money off of that or not, I think is a moot point.
we're trying to save you money by saving your time?
Yeah, exactly. We're saving the time of the volunteers responding 5 times in one day to, all these burns that aren't called in, and you pull up and the guy's like, I don't know what you're doing here. I just burned my ditches off. I got everything under control. So.
We just need What are we looking for here? A motion or?
Well,
Direction.
the direction, I can work on just essentially bringing amended language, and I'll actually run it by Andy and Matt probably before I bring it back to this body.
I think, do we need to decide on a fine amount or?
What I can do is I can do a little research, and then how about I just do some research and I bring back to you why I determined the fine amount, and you can tell me if you want higher or lower, and that'd be easy to change if that's the only modification.
Do the fine amount and the responsible person, responsible party.
Yeah.
Any other amendments that you feel necessary?
Right. That gives me direction too, and then I'll work through that, and then I'll start with.
Cause I think this is, I mean, I think you agree it's gonna make the deputy's job easier too.
Yeah.
Here's the fine. If you have any questions, show up for your court date.
Right. I'll work on that, and then I'll get together with those two gentlemen, and then once we're on the same page, we can bring it back to the body for. Great.
I would say that, since 2022, I think the real effort we've been using this ordinance toward education, just trying to get people to tell. Both us and the fire had been putting it out on social media, trying to get that word out there. And it's just, I don't think it's just time. I think that there's been some heinous ones where people have been just scofflaws about it.
I think we've got 95% of the people following the ordinance. It's that other 5 that just don't care. And a lot of out of state, out of county people that farm here now. And they don't. Anything else on that then?
No, I'll get to work on it, and once it's ready, we can bring it back. Thank you.
Now we've got to approve the South Dakota Department of Health contract renewal, for community health. Nurse.
Are there any big changes in this? I've read over it and it seems really similar to the last ones. So.
Mike, did you get to see it?
I did, and I felt the same way. I'm not sure what the change even was. I wasn't sure if somebody had any direction on what modification is on this contract compared to the last ones.
I took it just to be a
Just
renewal,
renewal.
to start annual renewal.
It looks identical, at least in nature, as the ones that we've signed it in the past.
Just, there's a given amount of time they will spend on the county.
That's a
Oh,
great
sorry,
question.
There's a given amount of time that they will spend in the county.
Very good.
Because we've got another new community health nurse, who, one that we did have was quit or moved on, whatever. And rumor has it, unless there are actually appointments, the snow will not be coming.
Won't be down here at all.
Yeah.
That would be a shift. I mean, that was a.
I don't think that this contract provides for like a certain hour amount of time. It just has state under 5A. It talks about, the obligation that the state is essentially agreeing to fulfill through this contract throughout the year, but it doesn't specify, as I can see.
Yeah, good catch, Lane. Yep. And that was.
Well, and again, I haven't met the new nurse, I haven't met the new. Yeah, nurse, I don't know who they are or anything like that, but that's the rumor going around anyways, unless there's appointments.
I was thinking that Aaron wasn't coming unless there were appointments anyway.
Okay.
That's what I understood, so I don't know if we have a new person besides her.
Aaron is no longer here.
Okay,
I think that was a real concern with the last one, was that just people wouldn't know to ask for these services. They would know that they're available, and then the usage would just go down, and that might have been part of the model the state was going to save money under. It's just like, well, you just won't tell everybody this stuff's available, and they only get it if they ask for it.
That doesn't sound like that.
I would be okay with the contract as long as it doesn't state that they need to be here 8 hours a week or.
I don't see it in there.
I don't either.
So I'll entertain a motion. Motion to approve the signature.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes. Approve accounts payable and the vouchers. Everybody can see those?
We'll be paying the bills.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes. 2025 annual report surplus cash report for review. Everybody get to see that? We've got the first quarter of 2026 LEMPG matrix from the state.
Well, I think on the cash report, you want to walk through just for the benefit of everybody, like a little bit. I mean, it's a lot of documents there if we get somebody out and stuff. But it's good news, you know?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me from budget time last year. I think things were looking pretty slim as far as surplus cash. I know, the projection was that we were gonna end up with like a fraction of a percent or something. So for us to end up where we did with, a little over almost 17% or just, rounding, it was just under 17%. We did pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
several departments did not spend their entire budgets last year. Actually, most of the departments, we didn't have to transfer. And so they need like I'm gonna say a supplement, but it's not really a supplement, it's a transfer from that contingency budget into another department's budget. We didn't use all that last year.
Yeah.
And we have for many years, used all of that, and then also done extra supplements, which we didn't have to do last year for things that we didn't really expect, so that was great. We ended up the year with, I wanna say about 1.7, almost 1.8 million, and it left at the end of the year, which is great. So that equates to, like I said, just under 17%. Revenues came in good. Expenditures were down. I don't really know what else I can say. Other than it was a great year. I mean, way better than what I ever could have expected. So that was nice.
That's great.
Yeah,
Thank you, Gary.
and I hope the trend continues.
Yeah.
We've been saying for years that once the jail is built, and we keep reiterating that, and now it's built, and I think we are gonna see things trending better, so
If not, blame
that's
me.
good.
Paying attention. So, okay, anything else on that?
No, thank you, though, Gary. Appreciate that.
Okay, the first quarter of 2026 local emergency management matrix from the state. Anybody have any questions on that? I see mine stepped out, so. You must not have any questions, comments, so.
And we move to accept that report? Is that how that works? Or?
It doesn't require a motion, they just want to know that you guys have seen it. It's a new requirement that the state is giving their people, essentially, that provides you more information. It's just ensuring that you're seeing their side of things. Their report.
Spreadsheets make me happy.
Yeah. Well, that's some information.
Anything else? Otherwise, we're going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We're adjourned.